Hello, welcome. It's the show that has a very long introduction that's the same every time, but not this time. But anyway, it's This Is Going Well, I think, with David Cooper. We are back again with Texas-based certified sexologist and sex coach Heather Ray. Will she give us an update about her blowjob workshop? Find out all that and more in just a few moments when we tackle the topic open relationships, non-monogamy, polyamory, and all that fun stuff. So, you know the drill by now. Hi, Heather.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing this again.
Round two.
Sorry I'm late. My cat stepped on my audio recorder
Oh, no.
at midnight, and it recorded all day, and then I got to my desk, and it said, no room. And then that was 5 minutes ago, so I had to clear it out. It's fascinating stuff, really.
The joys of pet ownership.
Do you own any pets?
I do. I have 3 dogs. My oldest is, nearing the end, which is hard, but he's been awesome. So yeah, lots going on there.
Crossing the Rainbow Bridge. I grew up in Toronto, and there's a bridge between Buffalo and whatever cities there, Niagara on the Lake, Niagara, whatever, St. Catharines. And it's called the Rainbow Bridge. And so whenever I heard the phrase, they're crossing the Rainbow Bridge, I'm like, why are people taking their pets to Buffalo? It didn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's difficult. They're like, family members, so it's hard. So I think the biggest thing now is trying to get the kids ready for it. So that's been difficult.
Children, great, fantastic. I promised my mom I'd wait till I was 40 to get my tubes tied, and I'm 37. I'm doing it on my 40th birthday. How did the blowjob workshop go? It
was great. It was awesome. So I think, too, being able to do that with a different group of people every time we offer that workshop. So if they missed the last one, there will be more. It's nice kind of getting feedback and, different things that come up in those workshops from the variety of people that you have in there, which is nice. So
do you ever get feedback from the penis-wielding partners of those who attend your workshop? I mean, that's really where the accolades should come from.
Yeah, it should be through the female clients so far, but that was also, we've done 2 in the last 3 weeks. So that's still a very new workshop. So I'm hoping that one of them will find me and be like, oh my gosh, you have saved my oral sex life. And this is a game changer.
Saved my oral sex life.
So maybe one day soon, somebody will find me and, through their partner and send me a little thank you card or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to happen. It's just very new, so.
I've gotten flowers or cookies when I've helped somebody get a job, but that's it. It's a little different. I mean, it's a job, but it was not a blowjob.
I love cookies. So I'm like, hey, they want to send me cookies because they're getting great oral now. I'm here for it.
That'll work. We're going to touch something today that I don't find terribly controversial, but some people do. And I often wonder why. Mm-hmm. Open relationships, non-monogamy, polyamory. For me, it's like gay marriage. If you don't like it, don't have one. For me, if this stuff is not for you, don't do it. And that's as simple as that. 100%.
That's my biggest thing, kind of talking to people, because you meet so many different people with so many different preferences and lifestyles, and reminding, but even in, regular female, male, monogamous, which you tend to, society says is normal. Even with that, your partner's going to want different things than you, and that's okay. And my biggest thing with everyone is do not yuck someone else's yum. Don't shame them for it. If it's not your cup of tea, that's okay. You don't have to do it. It's just, but it is for some people, and it works for some people. So just, keeping that open mind and knowing this it has no effect on you whatsoever.
It also spectacularly does not work for some people. And I feel like those are the people that speak up. And so when people who've never heard of open relationships finally hear about it, it's from somebody who it blew up for. So to them, they say, it never works. But I feel like there's many people out there who either keep it to themselves or you'd never know it about them, or they're coworkers, so why would they tell you about this stuff, where it works just fine, and those aren't the people who speak up usually.
It's a very quiet lifestyle, very secretive, which I feel like is awesome. I feel like even my friends who are in that lifestyle, I feel like I trust those friends with more of my personal stuff than I would my other friends. So it's definitely a very hush hush because of it being so people being so judgmental still, and it still being, that taboo type of thing. It's different. It's outside of society's norms. And so people want to, cast judgment very quickly before actually understanding what that entails and what that means to, and while it's maybe not something that you would be comfortable with in your relationship, it doesn't make it wrong. So, and going into those things with very clear boundaries is what's going to help, make that work if it's going to work for you. And you don't jump into it because your relationship is falling apart. That is the worst thing you can do.
Kids in open relationships, bad idea if your relationship's on the rocks. But let's get to that in a second, because you touched upon the secretive lifestyle, at least for some people. Others, of course, are open about it. I've got a hot take on that. Mm-hmm. On an individual level, if I find out a friend is in an open relationship, a polyamorous relationship, and they want to keep it secret, I totally respect that. No judgment on the individual level. But on the aggregate, I actually think it's damaging. You can imagine 30, 40 years ago, gay folks wouldn't want to come out because, hey, there's lots of judgment, so why would I do that? And on an individual level, if you had a gay friend back then, how could you judge them? How could you judge them for wanting to not take a hit on their, professional life, personal life, whatever? But on the whole, the more people that come out, the less judgmental people can be judgy about it, because these folks will be all around them. So I hate that it's kind of a secretive lifestyle.
Well, and you think, it's just like having a partner when you're hiding them. If you're secretively dating someone and you don't want anyone knowing about it, how does that make your partner feel? Or how does it make you feel? I'm like, I can't express this one part of me that's a big part of me, and I can't talk to anyone about it. It starts to make you feel even more ashamed of it. And even though you don't openly admit that, it's still that shame around it. And it's kind of, I don't know, putting that out there and being able to tell the world that's part of you. That's part of you. Like, hey, I have blonde hair, but do you know, really, I'm a brunette. I'm not. My hair's blonde.
No judgment. I'm on Propecia. I should be bald.
But I'm like, those are still, it's part of you, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. It is what you are. It's okay. Okay, some people, I don't know, prefer oral sex over penile-vaginal sex. Okay, nothing wrong with that. That's cool. It's literally part of you. Like, don't hide it because you feel like you're ashamed of it. And you're right.
Well, maybe don't tell that part to your boss.
Right. No. And you're true. You hit a good point there too, though, because when you are open about that, there are so many people who are still judgmental. While they cannot fire you from your career for it, it definitely makes people treat you different and could start setting you up to legally get rid of you in legal ways that aren't even valid. It's just because they know that they're intimidated by it, or they're put off by it, and they just don't want to be around people like that. And it's heartbreaking to know that that could affect your career. It could affect family members cutting you off. But the more people talk about it and the more people realize, oh, wow, that's a really normal, quote unquote, person. And they are in the lifestyle and they're really good freaking people. Maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah. I have gone through this. I was in a open relationship with my ex-wife. My family found out. They freaked the fuck out. My wedding got canceled. I eloped. I didn't talk to my parents for many years. Now I love them to death. But it just created a swirl of dysfunction because they weren't, quote unquote, supportive of our lifestyle. And I'm sort of like, A, this is none of your business. B, this doesn't affect you. They felt really attacked by it. And I can't help but wonder why. I feel like if the quality of your relationship and the bonds of your relationship is predicated on monogamy and only monogamy, I worry about you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And it's crazy, so my ex-husband and his new wife are in the lifestyle. Of course, this is nothing he's ever talked to me personally about, but
you heard it from the grapevine.
I heard it through our children who saw messages.
Oh boy.
So it was even worse than the grapevine. I much would have rather hear this through the grapevine. But, so the kids came to me with questions. And as a parent, too, of course, you want to teach them, oh, sure, you can grow up and you can get married. And I don't care if you marry a girl or you marry a man. It doesn't matter to me. Like, sure, one day I would love to have grandkids, but is that going to ruin my life if I don't? No? Like, that's your life and I'm not controlling it. But, you still want them to like, I'm a hopeless romantic. So I'm like, yes, one day I would love for you to get married and live happily ever after. But, if that type of relationship does not work for you and the person that you fall in love with, so be it. And that's kind of my thing too. And I know the backstory on their dad, and it's because he kept cheating. And so they went into it way wrong, but I'm not going to tell my kids that. So it's also kind of a, hey, you know what? If that works for them, then that's awesome. I'm glad that they're happy. And it's kind of my response to it is like, okay. And they're like, but it's weird. I'm like, that's how they want to do their relationship. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is like, okay, you have to be very careful. While her dad and I don't really have a great relationship, it's also, which was actually surprisingly enough because of that same thing.
Are you sure you want this to go out, or you're fine talking about this?
I know I'm good talking about it. I've actually never done this. Actually is great because I was like, I'm not even going to talk about me ever being in a lifestyle, but you know what?
No, dude, this can be therapy for you. I go to therapy twice a week. I did for many years. I can, all that money spent on therapist, I can offer you.
Yeah. So you are actually popping into my, poly cherry here. So never before heard. But yes, so my kid's father and I were married, and we, at the end, it was constant cheating. And he's like, you know what? I just can't stop having sex with other people. And so I'm hiding it from you. But, if we can make this work, the only way that I'm going to be able to make this work is if we are in an open relationship. And that's just what's going to have to happen. And of course, me, I'm a young mom, and I'm trying to do everything I can to keep this relationship. And this is way before all of my, sex coaching stuff now. So I'm like, okay, whatever it takes, this is going to save my marriage. Famous last words. And then, of course, you go into that lifestyle, and there is no trust. And it's crazy because I was actually informed by other friends within that community that my husband was posting my naked photos online and meeting up with couples and saying, oh, she decided not to come. And I had no idea about it. So, but she's okay with it. And so it trickles down because they don't do the drama. They don't do the lies, which they're still some of my really great friends. And they were the ones that actually let me know about the infidelity or the infidelities. And so it's crazy. So I know that that's kind of how the future relationships have all ended up transpiring the same way, because they're, surprisingly enough, all his ex-wives are my clients.
Wait, how many ex-wives does this guy have?
He has 4.
Jeez, that's impressive. I'm hoping maybe I'll be 4 or 5, but so far just 1.
Oh my God. But I'm like, I hope he gets more because it's been great for my business.
All right, there's 2 things I want to pick out here. First, I got to hand it to you. Sounds like you were thrust into this open relationship stuff rather brutally, and the fact that you don't have negative viewpoints around it, or you do for certain people, but not in general, I think speaks very well about you. But the other thing is, the reason I don't recommend it for couples where cheating's involved or things like this is because it seems like the knee-jerk reaction about open relationships is, that's breaking trust. And it's actually the opposite. The perverse thing is it requires so much more trust, so much more communication. So if you're not a great communicator or you have issues with trust, it's going to cause a disaster.
Oh, it's just waiting to happen. It's literally throwing gasoline on a fire that you're not going to be able to put out. And that's my biggest thing with people coming to me. And I'm like, I'm going to have a conversation with you guys and just chit chat for a few minutes and get to the, deep of your relationship for a minute, just to kind of, see where we're at on a level. Like, are y'all in marriage counseling? Are there, are you having any issues currently? Oh, well, yeah, there's this and that. Okay, well, we need to have a healthy, trusting relationship before we can even talk about that. Let's try some new, fun, exciting things together while we rebuild that relationship, and we can circle back to this. But if you jump into an open lifestyle or an open marriage in the lifestyle, and you are not in a good spot with your partner, you're not going to make it out of there together stronger at all. And I mean, I see this happen all the time. And so when people come to me and they want to be able to go into that, that's cool. And if it's a healthy relationship, it's, great, let's talk boundaries, because you have to go into this and know you need to set boundaries. Like, hey, sometimes this is okay, but you know what? Kissing is very personal to me, and that's intimate. And I don't know if I can see you do that part. You can have sex with them, but the kissing is intimate. That needs to be for us. Laying these things out, and you don't think to ask those questions. So having somebody who's trained in this, helping you to set those healthy boundaries so that you have better success at it, is going to be a big deal.
Sort of a relationship orientation friendly therapist to go to.
Yes, exactly.
And I completely agree with the kissing because mouths are full of bacteria. The exchange of that mouth bacteria is disgusting. Genitals, I think, comparatively have less. So I'm totally neurotic. Yeah. It's funny when it's a huge risk, right? When you've been monogamous with someone for 10 years, 5 years, some long amount of time, and you make a switch like this. What are the jealous feelings that are going to come out? I usually think they work out best is when you go into the relationship wanting an open relationship, because then it's like not such a major renegotiation of the terms that can be massively disruptive.
Oh, 100%. When you go in there and that's what you're looking for, and then finding someone who's open to the same types of things you are, like, hey, you know what? You can set those boundaries and saying, this doesn't bother me, but I still need that closeness with you. So like I have friends who are in that, and every single time they hook up or they swap, they always end the night together, sexually together. Like that is their thing. Every single time, that's how they know they're going to bed knowing that it's still them. They're still a team. So it's something that, and it works different for everyone, but it is a big deal to have that trust and that connection there. And, it's not a lot of people, I hear a lot of people say, oh, those marriages will never work out. Not if you don't go into it the right way, but if you go into it the right way and that's what both of you want, there shouldn't be an issue as long as you're communicating and having that, even if you're just venturing into it, maybe not having a conversation about it that same night, but say going into, hey, we're going to go try a swingers club. And in the morning, we're going to have fun tonight. We've laid out boundaries. We might play or we will not play. We're just experiencing everything tonight. Lay all of that out in the beginning. And you know what? We're not going to discuss it tonight because we might be drinking and we're going to be on a high. But tomorrow morning over coffee, we're going to sit outside and we're going to just talk about our thoughts on it. And maybe some of the things that we saw that we loved and maybe we weren't so comfortable with, so that we can guide ourselves properly through, this path that we're walking.
You were talking about how people think that it won't work. And my pessimistic view is when someone's like, this will never work, I say, how many relationships that aren't open devolve into breakups and divorces? Most of them, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of naive or cherry picking to just say this is the thing. Now, back to going to a swingers club, I do have friends, especially because I used to live in San Francisco and there's a lot of alternative lifestyle people there. I have friends who go to sex parties and these kinds of things, and I don't know, they're always trying to get me to go, but I'm not a cool guy, and I don't know. For me, I like to go to club bed, that's kind of, but they're always like, okay, your first time you go, you just hang out. You don't do anything. You just hang out at the bar, hang out with your date. Don't commit to anything. Just kind of absorb it. And that's a good way to see it if it's for you. And just like that, you don't have to jump into these things. Like if you're considering an open relationship, why not just go on a date with someone? No kissing, no nothing. It's just a date. See how your other partner reacts. See how you react. See how it affects your relationship within a month. There are ways to go into this stuff slowly, right?
Yes, baby steps. Baby steps. And one thing too, like even as a female, one thing I can say, for those that are looking into those, types of options and those types of clubs and being nervous going into that, one thing that I love to point out to people when they're first kind of dipping their toes in with those clubs is, as a female, I have felt safer in swingers clubs than I have ever felt in any other club that I've ever walked into. People don't oogle you. Like they see you and they're like, oh, wow, that's a really beautiful woman. But they do not come up behind you and ass grab or catcall or be disgusting. There's so much respect because most of those clubs have the policy that the woman rules everything. So if the woman is uncomfortable and you're making her uncomfortable, you'll lose your membership and you're out. And so they're not going to risk that because this is their lifestyle. So the level of comfort that I feel, even by myself at a swingers club, is uncomparable to any other club or even sometimes a restaurant bar, which is crazy.
I mean, not to me. The folks who are in this game, orgies, sex parties, swingers clubs, sex clubs, they're really ahead of the game in terms of consent culture.
100%. And I think it's huge, especially, the issues that you do see with consent now. And that being an open, like everyone will talk to you about sex there for the most part. And there's so much consent. I mean, it's unreal. And so that's one of my biggest things is, just go on a date night. Like sometimes maybe you don't want to swap, but you want to watch other people with your partner and it's exciting for you. You can do that. You don't have to play with anyone else if you don't want to. That's the beauty of it. You can just look. It's like live porn.
All right. I'm happy to just sit at my computer while my girlfriend's in the other room watching Real Housewives. But hey, that's our situation. All right. breaking it to your friends, your family, especially ones who might be super traditional. Any tips? Like, that's a tough question. I know it's person to person, but
It is, especially right now with so many of them being very, secretive about it still. There's really not. And like with, even in my personal situation, it was not anything that, I was, it wasn't consensual for me. It was kind of, I was being forced to do this because this is the last resort. And, it's hard going in and saying that. Like, I would say my first tip is see if it's for you. Try it out for a little while before telling anyone, because then if not, like, that's going to be the topic of Thanksgiving dinner. And that's going to be awkward, especially if you were like, oh yeah, no, it didn't work out. And then they were all proven right, because they said it wasn't going to work out. They told you so. So, make sure it's for you and that it works for you before you even tell anyone. And then once you realize, hey, we've been doing this, for 6 months, a year, and it's going great for us. So we've had no issues. Our communication with one another, best case scenario here, is better. We are closer to one another on an intimate level. This has just been incredible for our relationship. Then sure, if you feel like you want your family and friends to know, then yes, it doesn't have to be a big deal, but just letting them know, look, we are an open couple. This is what we're doing. And not that, I need your opinions on it, because I know that's a lot to take in, but we just wanted to lay it out because we didn't want to hide it. It won't be rubbed into your face, nothing like that, but just letting you know that that's the type of relationship that we have and it works for us. You don't owe anyone an explanation, but you don't have to keep it a secret.
I think people should disclose earlier than they want to, because I think in the next 20, 30 years, we're going to see this as a totally normal thing.
100. Yeah, it will be eventually. It's just right now you worry, like you had said, with the relationships with your parents. And if you're just testing the waters, like I'm not going to go and tell my mother that, hey, like I'm single and I had sex with, I didn't. I'm saying, I'm just spitballing here.
What are you going to tell my mother, Heather?
I had sex with 3 guys last week, because, hey, the mood struck and I needed my needs met, and I'm single, and I just went out and kind of had a few one-night stands.
All right, let's get my mother on the line. We'll tell her that, Heather.
But I'm like, I'm not going to tell my mom that. But hey, if I hit it off with one of them and he ends up being a great guy, then hey, mom, I've been talking to this guy for just a little bit. I'm not going to tell her every guy that I encounter. But hey, I've been talking to him for a little while. It seems like it's getting pretty serious. And, I'd just like to let you know, maybe, you'd like to meet him. So I feel like it's the same thing. Make sure that it's good for you, and then break it just like you would a new relationship. It's, hey, it's still us. We're still together, but this is what we're doing. And it's working great for us right now.
All right. So you got the steady partner, and then you meet someone new, and it's starting to stick a little bit. At that time, maybe if you're comfortable, introduce that new person to mom, and with it, the whole concept. Kids. Should you tell your kids?
That's a tough one. And every parent's going to have a different opinion on this. That's a parenting thing. But I feel like make sure it's working for you. I have some clients who their kids don't know, but they look at those other partners or those other friends as relatives, their uncles, their aunts. They're always around. They don't know. Like typically even a standard, American family with your husband and your wife, your kids don't really know about your sex life. Like you should be open and educate them, of course, but typically they don't know that they don't want to know that you're having sex. They don't really care to know that you're having sex with other people either. So I feel like at an age appropriate level, you could certainly, your kids are 14 and they're realizing, I'm pretty sure I just accidentally saw mom kiss someone else. It's probably a good idea to, around that age, broach the topic, let them know, hey, look, this is the type of relationship that we have. And just so that it doesn't raise any questions or make your kids lose that trust in you because they think that you're having an affair and you're cheating on their other parent. You definitely want to make sure that that is never an issue because that's going to ruin the trust between you and your child. So if you choose not to tell them, make sure that you're very careful with it. But I don't feel like if at that age you feel like, hey, this is a lifestyle for us and it's going to stay this way, I don't think that there's any issue being open and honest with your children about it. Like they're going to find out eventually. And it's crazy. And the reason why I say that eventually, like, sure, somebody could try to keep that a secret forever, but you can keep it a secret, but you can't control other people. So a story that pops in my head is there is a couple who were swingers for many years. It worked great for them. And swinger friends of theirs had sent an envelope with a bunch of pictures in it through the mail. And their adult daughter, who, is a stepdaughter to one of these partners, found the envelope in the mail and decided to open it. And as an adult, you would think she would know better, but she opened it anyway. And saw all these pictures of a party that they attended with some very wild photos, and decided to go and tell the rest of the family that she had seen these photos and how disgusting she felt that they were. And it put that couple in a very negative light. And being around, that family and hearing all of the negative things that were said about that couple. And mind you, they are an incredible couple. Both of them are amazing people as individuals and together. And the amount of trash talk that you hear surrounding that because of an envelope that was sent from someone else to their home and someone opened it without consent, those rumors start, floating around, and it becomes a bigger deal than it needs to be. So for me, that's why I'm real quick to say, make sure it's an age appropriate thing, but it's probably best to tell them so that they don't find out another way and it cause any sort of negative relationship with your children.
Yeah, when you tell your children, when you tell your family, when you tell the kinds of people that were judging those folks that you gave in your example, when you tell them, you open yourself up to judgment. You open yourself up to a negative view, but at least you control the narrative.
Exactly. And you don't have to go into detail.
And when those photos surface, they already know they're gross photos. They're compromising photos. Sorry, gross for them to see. I don't think sex is gross, but at least you still control the narrative. When people are completely in the dark and they think of you one way, and then they find something jarring like that, you lose control of it. And you'll be seen much more negatively than if you told them in the first place, I think.
Yes, I am get ahead of it and just make sure that it's out there. And like I said, just like with your kids not knowing that you and your husband or you and your wife have sex, they know eventually it's going to happen. And I know people are like, at 14-year-olds are hearing a lot more at school about other people they know what you're doing. They don't need to know the details. So they don't need to know mom and dad prefer missionary. They don't need to know all of that. They know that it's happening. So if that is the type of relationship that you have, they're going to hear about it elsewhere. So just sit them down and let them educate them. This is a perfect opportunity to educate them and tell them, okay, there's a lot of different types of lifestyles. Society focuses on, just like having children who are bisexual or gay, even telling them, yes, society focuses on a man and a female, but that's not what it is anymore. It could be anything. And so allowing them that chance to be educated is a big thing. If you have the opportunity to educate them on it, do it. The more educated these kids are, the more successful they're going to be in future relationships.
All right. I'm happy to leave it right there. You got another blowjob workshop, or you're just happy to be here?
So we actually have a workshop coming up on the 8th. And yes, I am very happy to be here. But we do have an orgasm workshop coming up on the 8th that's talking about a lot of different types of orgasms for both male and female partners. So yeah, that one's coming up here.
Wait, women can have orgasms?
Oh my gosh.
This is a first for me. I don't believe that's true because no one's ever had one with me.
Oh, bless your heart.
No, I'm kidding. Well, I'm probably not kidding because I'm bad at sex, but I know that women can have orgasms. Heather, thank you for coming here. And by coming here, I mean showing up to a taping online in your home where you have exposed brick. I do as well. It's just on my ceiling. And hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.